theology that is associated with it. And one of the words that I picked out of the reading the epistle was that it is the emblem of Christianity. If you like, the trademark. Simple, easily accomplished by anyone, nothing complicated, nothing written around it or anything. A simple cross. Some of the Holy Fathers make the commentary that wherever you look, you see crosses on window frames, in all sorts of places. And through the theology of the Church, we're told that salvation can only come if one understands and uses the cross as part of their spiritual life. As I've said to you on other occasions, what do we mean by this cross? What do we mean by it? Certainly, there is the physical aspect. We have a cross there lying in the alloy in the middle of the church for the celebration today. We have crosses in the church in various places, right up to the very top. But in essence, when we refer to the cross, the Christian cross, we are referring to the inescapable difficulties and sufferings that all people undergo. We repeat that. The difficulties and the suffering that all people undergo, whether they are baptized into the church or not, whether they are atheists, Buddhists, or wherever they might be. None can escape the cross which follows each and every one of us around like a guardian angel almost, indicating to us our inadequacies and helping us in our struggles, and perhaps even glorifying us in any good works that we might do. I often watch the Russian movies, as you know, and many of those are about the oligarchs, Russian mafia, that took over the big land, essentially by stealing the resources that were hardly working during the communist period, and became exceedingly rich, unbelievably rich from that. They say that the Russian leader is the richest man in the world. Perhaps there are some that we don't know that are more richer than that. But in all cases, what I see in these films and whatever is that these people who have, you could say, gained the world, gained anything they like. If you want to buy a Maserati, they just go and buy one. Any money, it's pocket money, nothing at all. And yet none of them live in peace and happiness, despite all their money and all their wealth and all their power and all the things that they have access to. Yes, they use those things, but none of them are really happy. In fact, they're some of the saddest lots that you will find in the world. The reason for this is, of course, bound up with the fall of man, in the sense that a material wealth does not save a person and does not bring them the joy of salvation, no matter how much of it they have. Some of the so-called better ones do use their funds to help the church in various ways. They might restore some of the thousands of destroyed parishes around the land, which still stand there in a horrid state, having not been touched for how many years? Nearly 100 years. They were turned into stables and storehouses and gymnasiums and who knows what. Many of these have been restored, and in some cases these people, although they made their money, you could say in an ungodly way, have contributed to that. What God's judgment is upon them in that sense, I don't know. Maybe by that they wipe away some of their misdeeds. But certainly having great wealth in all cases does not bring them happiness, and in fact tortures their conscience. And this is why some of them are quite happy to give some of the wealth to the church in various ways. Similarly, if you read any of the biographies of people from other lands who were exceedingly wealthy, I certainly would not like to live their life, despite their 7 and 8 figure sums in banks and whatever. Because there is no peace of heart. There is no peace of conscience. And that follows you around 24/7 and upheavals your whole being to such an extent that some even commit suicide because they cannot stand the pain that is associated with having all this wealth and not really following Christ's way. And it says here quite plainly that what shall it profit a man to give in exchange for his soul? What should it profit a man if he should gain the whole world and lose his soul? Wealth is one of the key pointers in this particular statement that our Lord Jesus Christ is referring to. It doesn't mean that all wealthy people are evil and are destined for terrible times. Not so at all. But many are. When we, the lowly ones, speak of the cross, we do understand that also as difficulties, sorrows, sicknesses, and all those sorts of things that afflict us whilst we are living on this earth. In many, many different ways. Sometimes externally, sometimes internally, and most often internally, because a person's conscience is alive and well 24/7, and they can't calm it just by thinking about it. Because it's a God-given thing, and it torments them mainly for the reason that it is trying to push them in the right direction, the direction of following Christ, of being part of his church and partaking of all the sorts of things that the church offers to people for the salvation of their souls. I remember one work that I had, one lady kept repeating over and over again that the burial robe has no pockets. So you can't put anything in there and get buried with, a few $1,000 or a piece of gold or something like that. There's no pockets, because those things have no meaning. The other aspect about this is that people, when they are afflicted with the cross, that is with these various ailments and whatever, can react in many different ways. Often the initial reaction is that, why does this happen to me? What have I done? Why do I deserve such a thing? Why is God sending these sort of things on me? What is the matter with him? Can't he see that I don't do anything evil or anything like that? Well, so they think. That is not the right attitude, of course. The correct attitude is certainly to be wanting to understand why you are given a particular cross, but also to give thanks to the Lord, because he's probably pointing out to you through that something very important in your life that you have to change, that you have to redo and take a different path. Then you are using that cross in a salvific way, in a way that can lead to salvation. I hear every day of people in dire straits of various types, and they and their friends and relatives are asked to pray for them, which is a good thing. But it's very difficult to set a person on the right path who is almost at the point of blasphemy because they are suffering and want to blame God for the suffering that they are enduring or not enduring on account of the difficulties that they're having in their lives. And it's interesting to see, and I see this so often, one day these difficulties come and they appear like they're going to last forever. And all of a sudden, in a matter of days, it's as if it's gone. It's just taken away. That's the way the Lord works. Sometimes giving you this jolt. And if you get the point, then you change your life. And that difficulty is removed or lessened in one way or another. During this great Lenten period, the veneration of the cross falls more or less in the middle, in order for us to be brought down to earth about the other Sundays that we have heard, which were great and inspiring commemorations of holy saints like St. Gregory Palamas last week. We've still got St. John of the Ladder to come, Mary of Egypt. And it reminds us But these great saints also did not just sort of float along into the kingdom of heaven without any struggle. On the contrary, they endured far, far more than I think any of us have ever endured. Far more. Mary of Egypt, of whom we will be commemorating in a few weeks, when she realised her sinful nature and was allowed to enter the church and venerate the icon of the Mother of God, took a couple of loaves of bread and ran into the desert, where she stayed for about 40 years, living, as far as we know, off that only. And when she was confronted over all those decades by the priest Zosima, she told him of the unbearable pains and desires that she had to bear because of her former life. If you don't know, she was a not really a harlot, but a woman who had an unquenchable desire for sex, basically. Would even pay men. A sickness, for all intensive purposes. And that barred her even from entering the church initially. But with the strength of her character and with the aid of God's help, God's angels and whatever, she was able to overcome those horrid desires through her prayers and struggles and actually become a holy person who probably didn't even know that she was holy. Usually that's the case. She could walk on water and whatever, and perform miracles and all sorts of things. It's like that story that happened, I think, towards the end of the 18th century, 19th century, in St. Petersburg, where some holy fools during winter were playing with a ball, and the river was there, and the ball happened to be kicked or thrown into the water, and without any thought, one of them just ran out on top of the water, picked up the ball, and brought it back, unaware almost of what he had done. They assumed that anyone can do that. And they can, in fact, if they keep the Lord's commandments and strive to fix up their souls and draw closer to God day by day, day by day. We live in a increasingly difficult time where this emblem, this trademark of Christianity, the cross, is starting to be an illegal thing to exhibit upon yourself or anywhere else. It's happened before. It happened in the times of the Roman Empire and the Middle Ages. It happened especially strongly during the communist regime in USSR and related countries. And now here in the West, where we thought that such a thing could never occur, kids at school are asked to remove their crosses and not to bring them in, and to have nothing that shows that they are Christians. what is in these people's minds. Really, what is in these people's minds? That they allow themselves to have such authority upon another. You know, if you wear a little cross, what possible harm is that to anybody else? The Muslims, and they'd say, oh, it's an offence to me. How is it an offence to you? Do you know the meaning of offence? Your presence as a Muslim is an offence to me because you deny the Saviour, the one that saves, the one that created you, the one that gives you life, the one that upholds the world, the one that is coming again to judge the living and the dead after the resurrection. That's an offence to me, to deny that. But to see a cross is no offence to anybody, unless they're crazy, cuckoo. And most of them are. Most of them are. If you talk to them and ask them pointed questions, you get answers which are so absurd that you cannot have a serious conversation with a person like that. And in fact, the more they are supposedly learned in those non-Christian faiths, the more difficult it is to talk to them on any same level. For us, of course, we are asked to bear our difficulties with thanksgiving and with hope that God will take that away from us and teach us something that we need to know in order to correct our lives. And that we are having the courage to keep that emblem of the cross with us at all times. Okay, if you're having an X-ray, you can remove it for a few minutes. But in general, keep it on you day and night. Wear it and remember that it's there. And remember that that cross is the weapon which demons flee from. They cannot bear that emblem, and they cannot bear to get near to a person who is wearing it and who is consciously aware that they have this power on account of the sacrifice which our Lord Jesus Christ performed through the cross by being crucified, dying, and his soul going out down into the realm of the demonic places and wrecking up their whole scheme of things where they wanted to capture all of mankind. For that, they'll never forgive. In fact, demons never forgive. So keep that in mind in your own lives, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Wear your cross. Have it in your homes. Cross yourselves often. Before meals, after meals, when you go to bed, when you get up, when you say your prayers, etc. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. If they put you in jail because of that, well, a few more jewels to your heavenly realm, which you will be rewarded with sooner or later. Every type of persecution that falls upon genuine Christians will be rewarded, if not in this world, certainly in the next world. Because as it says, not even a hair of our heads can fall without the will of our Lord. And may we be strengthened during this great Lenten period to indeed venerate and glorify the saints that are brought forth for us, with the knowledge that they and us share a common path, which is the path of the cross. So we have that in common with them, and they know that, and they pray for us and help in that respect. May God help us in all of this and give us the strength to meet the risen Lord in the next few weeks which are coming up, and attend the major services which are coming, especially that the Lord gives us health enough and strength enough to do that.